Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the council meeting, Township of Muskoka Lakes for May 13, 2026. I'd like to welcome everybody in the gallery watching, and I'd also like to call this meeting to order at 1:02 p.m. I can confirm that we do have quorum of council. I believe everyone is at the table today rather than by Zoom. Welcome, everybody. I can also confirm that the CAO, the clerk, and other members of the senior management team and staff are present as well. And I would like to start by reading the Land Acknowledgement Statement. We want to acknowledge that we are on lands traditionally occupied by Indigenous peoples. Indigenous peoples have cared for this territory for the benefit of future generations, and their stewardship throughout the ages is recognized. Thank you. Another public notice, today's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lakes website and YouTube channel. And by participating in the open public meeting today, you are consenting to your image, your voice, and your comments being recorded and posted online. As we always do, we solicited public input on our agenda at TML public comment at muskokalakes.ca, and no comments were received. I can also acknowledge that we have a supplementary agenda, which I believe was issued yesterday, and it adds three things. Under 6B, public comment, maximum 5 minutes. The speaker is Nita Major. And regarding the agenda item 9A, report from the Township's Municipal Emergency Control Group, 2026 Spring Freshet update. The second one is 8A, new business. Consideration of a motion as presented by Councillor Roberts and Councillor Mazan, re the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation funding. And number 10A, consideration of a motion as presented by Mayor Kelley and Councillor Zavitz regarding the Muskoka watershed flooding. And that will, on the reason it's on the supplementary agenda, is it replaced the draft resolution that was circulated in the first instance. I think there were a couple of minor changes to the proposed resolution. And at this time, I'd like to ask if anybody has any pecuniary interests they wish to disclose. All right, seeing none, I would remind you, if you find yourself in a situation that you think you need to disclose an interest, please do so in the middle of the meeting. And finally, last of the homework, and then we're going to get on to the real agenda. There's an explanatory note. First of all, the motions that you're going to hear have been pre-populated with random movers and seconders, and that's simply done to expedite this process and the meeting. And secondly, all members of council are asked to physically raise their hand until I have confirmed the vote. If the vote is still unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded by the clerk. In that circumstance, it is not considered a recorded vote. Okay. All right. Thank you and welcome. We'll get going. I think we're starting with items 4 and 5. I don't believe we have any invited presentations, nor do I think we have any delegations. We do have 2 public comments, one by way of the supplementary agenda, but the first public comment is from Melissa Markham. Is Melissa Markham in the room? Welcome to this podium. And if you do us a favor and make sure the mic's on, and I'll take your name and address if I could as well, please.
So good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Melissa Markham, 1025 Rebecca Lane, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H2J6. I'm here today on behalf of the owner of a subject property that I'm speaking about, which is 1273 Moon River Road. This application is listed on your agenda under 11A. The owner, Beth Wanlin, is also here with me today. We're here today in relation to a staff report that was prepared by the Planning Department regarding the partial demolition of an existing dwelling. The property is listed on the Township Heritage Register, and the Heritage Act requires 60-day notice prior to any demolition. This time frame is allowing the municipality to review the request and to review any designation of the building. We provided notice to the Township on March 31st, 2026 regarding the partial demolition of the building, and we provided the materials requested by the Township. We were also made aware that this application would be heard by Council today. We read the staff report that was posted to the agenda last week, and we're here asking council to support the staff report that's before you today. As provided in the staff report, the request is for a partial demolition. And this is the 1985 addition that was made to a 1920s farmhouse. So this is included in the staff report. The original 1920s farmhouse is to be retained. And as I provided, it's only the 1985 addition, which there are permits that identify 1985, that's being proposed to be removed through the demolition request. We'd like to provide that the staff report also identifies that the property was significant to the settlement in and around Bala, which is why it was listed on the heritage inventory. However, the lands are heavily forested with this building. It can't be seen by the road and water. And once again, the owners are maintaining that existing farmhouse building. The 19 addition is proposed to be demolished through the application, and an addition will be constructed. I'm here if there are any questions of council. Once again, we're here just to lend our support to the planning report before you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you, and through you. Thanks for your presentation. Was there any flooding damage on this property as a result of what we just experienced on the Moon River?
Through you, Mayor. No, I'm not aware of any flood damage that occurred on this property.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Seeing none, I will thank you for your presentation. As you probably know, we will get to your issue a little bit later and deal with it then. Thank you. Okay, the other public comment was added by way of supplemental agenda, and I believe it was Ms. Nita Major. Is Nita Major on the phone or on Zoom? Okay.
Yes, I'm available by Zoom.
There you are. Welcome.
Thank you.
We don't see you. Have you got?
My camera is on, but I don't seem to have the option here. I've unmuted myself, but it doesn't seem to allow me to. 1 second. How's this?
You're coming on. There you go. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If you could do me a favor, please give your name and your address. And I think you have 5 minutes. Is that correct? 5 minutes as well. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Nita Major, M159 Lake Muskoka. And I've had a cottage on Lake Muskoka for more than 25 years. I was born and raised in Uliscard, Ontario. I'm a proud Franco-Ontarian, a lawyer, and a mediator. My husband and I bought our first home in Muskoka. I come here today with the hope that we have a shared common goal, and that is the protection of the Muskoka watershed. All goals require a clear pathway. I'm concerned that Resolution 1 and 2 does not represent our shared goal and is not the correct path forward, as it puts the cart before the horse, in that it is preemptive and also prejudicial to the public. Here's why. I'm struggling to understand the practical meaning of these resolutions, given that the district's Making Waves initiative, an integrated watershed management framework, the IWM, already appears to be moving towards a broader and a more comprehensive watershed governance model, as it states at page 25. If I'm reading this correctly, I have the following questions. Since the IWM plan appears to be silent on the MNR and Hydro's role, how will the outstanding concerns about their roles be managed? 2, if the IWM is the overarching plan, it is important to highlight the supporting role of the Muskoka Watershed Council. There's a document entitled The Evolution of the Water Management, which discusses equitable water flow and effectively, and I put in quotes, sharing the pain. But sharing the pain is fundamentally at issue here. Many residents are concerned there is an imbalance and that we are shouldering, as residents, a larger part of that pain. If this is what the IWM stands for, why is TML endorsing it? In the May 5th letter by myself, Mackey, Sayre, and Cartwright to you, the mayor, regarding the MLA e-blast, it was specifically noted that over 2,000 residents signed a petition asking whether hydroelectric generating stations and water management operations contributed in any way to the 2019 flood. From my review, those questions have not been answered. I'm going to now draw your attention to the 2026 Spring Update Staff Report issued May 13, 2026 at page 3, and I quote, "The building department is anticipating a high volume of calls. A building permit will be required for any structure changes, alterations, repairs to any building greater than 10 square meters." So I'm not sure if I'm reading all of this correctly, but the following questions need to be asked. Will setbacks change to comply with the new flood mapping? Will existing shoreline development rights be affected to comply with the new flood mapping? If someone docks needs to be rebuilt because of this flood, will they need to comply with new dock heights in order to comply with the new flood lines? And what will happen to the existing docks and boathouses? Will flooding just be the new normal? If significant policy or land use changes are being contemplated, I respectfully submit the public requires clearer disclosure, broader consultation, and independent review before those directions can move forward, as requested in the Mackey, Sayre, Cartwright Major letter of April 25th to you, the Mayor. And it was supported by more than 500 signatories. That letter asked that we go back before we go forward, specifically that all organizations and public officials involved in watershed operations be brought together, that meaningful operational and historical data be publicly disclosed for transparency purposes, and that multiple public meetings be convened so residents can properly understand and assess the issues before major policy directions are advanced. In addition, I have the following questions. Has any independent analysis been completed comparing the economic and environmental cost of repeating flooding in Muskoka against the economic benefit generated by hydroelectric production within the watershed? 2, in all the data I have read, why is no one looking at pre-2006 water levels and comparing the management plan at that time to post-2006? 3, why is the M&R not managing the watershed and being held to account? And 4, in all of the TML reports that I've studied over the last 4 weeks, that I've had an opportunity to read, why are the hydroelectric plants not considered in terms of their effect on the watershed? And finally, is there a need here for judicial inquiry? There have been over 11 resolutions asking the province to assist since 2010, and the premiers, now over 3 during that period, and the M&R does not appear to have properly managed the watershed. We know the province are in essence signatories on both sides of the 2006 WRWMP, and that the public had no seat at the table. We are now also seeing the emergence of the IWM, which in effect, hate to use this word, submerges the MRWMP. It appears broader in scope, influencing future land use planning, flood plan management, infrastructure decisions, and potentially shoreline development requirements. And
Ms. Major, your 5 minutes is up, but if you just wrap it up, please.
Absolutely, thank you. The Muskoka watershed is a region of enormous environmental, cultural, and economic importance. An independent inquiry is not about blame. It's about restoring public confidence. And I would respectfully submit that is much needed here. Thank you for your time and for considering.
Thank you very much. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Councillor Kent.
Can we get a copy, a written copy of this? I couldn't follow it all because she went very quickly. I'd like to read it. It's very well done, but I can't process it all in 5 minutes without a written copy.
Ms. Major, if you could deliver up an electronic copy, we'd make sure everybody on council has an opportunity to read what you've said. If that could be done. Thank you.
Ready to go, and I will send it. And I apologize for going so quickly, Councillor Kent. However, due to the fact that I was restricted to 5 minutes and I had a significant amount of information to impart, I had to do so. My apologies in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? I'm not seeing any, so thank you very much for your input. Look forward to receiving the hard copy or a copy of it for us to have a look at. And as you probably know, this matter does come up a little bit later, I believe, in today's meeting. So thank you.
Thank you for your time and thank you for listening to me today. Much appreciate all of your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on. Consent agenda is the next step. And I have some resolutions I'm going to read. First one is moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Kent. Be it resolved that the mayor and council adopt and enact the following minutes and recommendations contained in the May 13, 2026 consent agenda and direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative actions. Number one, April 15, 2026 General Finance Committee minutes and action items 1 through 9. Number two, April 15, 2026 council minutes. And number three, April 16, 2026 Planning Committee minutes and action items 1 through 8. Any questions? Any comments? All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. All right, what's next? Okay, first one is, I believe, we're going to call on the Municipal Emergency Control Group representative. I think it's Director Colucci is going to do a presentation highlighting the township response to the flooding. Welcome.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, members of council. I'm presenting on behalf of the Municipal Control Group, and they're all here if you need to ask questions. The report before you provides an overview of the township's response to the 2026 spring freshet and flooding, highlights successes and challenges, and notes lessons learned and improvements since the April 2019 flood. Muskoka has experienced significant flooding in 2013 and 2019. Since 2013, the township has consistently advocated to reduce flood risk across the watershed, including requesting review of the Muskoka River Watershed Management Plan operating parameters. Following 2019, the province appointed a flood advisor and funded watershed projects led by the district and partners. In late 2024, after continued advocacy, including a joint delegation with the district, the Minister of Environment committed to review and potentially amend the watershed management plan. These changes have not yet been implemented. It's important to clarify the township does not control lake levels. These decisions are made by provincial agencies, primarily the Ministry of Natural Resources, under established plans. The spring precipitation at the Beatrice Station was 118 millimeters in March and 176.3 millimeters in April, about 163% and 219% of normal. On April 1st, snowpack averaged 29 centimeters with 94 millimeters of water content, about 104% of normal. And both months were warmer than historical averages, accelerating melt and runoff. The MNR issued a flood watch April 10th and upgraded that to a flood warning on April 13th, noting April 16th that some areas could approach 2019 levels. Staff began daily lake water monitoring, and as levels continued to rise, the Municipal Emergency Control Group began regular meetings on April 17th. By April 22nd, 23rd, Bala Bay reached the 2019 peak, and on April 22nd, and a maximum of 226.072 meters on April 23rd. Lake Joseph and Lake Rosso exceeded 2019 levels, reaching 226.545 meters. And on April 22nd, the main body of Lake Muskoka peaked at 226.382, which is below the 2019 levels. For township operations, public works staff monitored roads, bridges, dams, and culverts throughout the event. As conditions changed, roads were signed, closures were implemented as required, and updates were posted on Municipal 511. Road impacts included the closure of South Monk Road, Beatrice Trail Line, and River Street for the Burgess Dam operations. Other roads experienced partial flooding but were not closed. Overall damage to roadways was minimal this year compared to 2019. A major focus was protecting Burgess Dam and River Street. Staff worked with the contractor and consultant to install temporary flood protection, including a temporary spillway and extensive sandbagging of the dam crest along River Street. These measures performed well, even with approximately 200 millimeters of overtopping. Water was contained within the temporary spillway, and the dam structure was protected from scouring and damage, avoiding issues experienced in 2019. We also ensured residents had access to materials. Sand and sandbags were provided at multiple locations across the township. Over 25,000 sandbags were taken by residents, and at the end of the event, disposal options were coordinated, including free drop-off at the Rose Warren landfill and township drop-off at 2 filling locations. Parks, Recreation, and Facility staff monitored township assets throughout as high water limited the use of docks, launches, parks, and beaches. Staff protected key assets, including sandbagging the Jasmine Park playground. The building division is anticipating increased calls and permit activity relating to the flood repairs. Staff are available to help residents understand permit requirements for structural repairs and septic system work. In communications, a key improvement since 2019 was communications. The township maintained a dedicated flood emergency information webpage as the central source of official information, updating frequently, often hourly during the peak conditions. We use social media across platforms for preparedness and real-time updates, and Voint Alert for direct notifications. At the time, more than 1,300 residents were subscribed, and 2 notices were issued, including clear actions residents could take. To reach residents without regular internet access, we partnered with Moose FM for preparedness messaging. Key message documents were also provided to council and customer service to keep information consistent. The fire department maintained a high state of readiness, though fortunately, no direct swift water rescue calls were required during the event. All rigid bottom inflatable vessels and water rescue gear were inspected and staged for service. Following 2019, council supported investments in rescue boats for Bala and Port Carling, prioritized specialized water rescue training for all members. In addition to emergency standby, fire crews assisted with proactive infrastructure protection, including sandbagging efforts on River Street. The CEMC function served as the central hub for communication, with daily briefings that aligned municipal, district, and provincial partners. This enabled rapid deployment of provincial resources that requested, including flood barriers and 2 aqua dams for the Burgess Dam at no cost. The public often asks about emergency declarations. The MECG review the criteria daily. A declaration is generally considered when the municipality can no longer manage the situation using existing operations, staff, and resources. Throughout this event, the township remained within capacity across roads, emergency services, facilities, and administration. So an emergency declaration was not required. It's also important to note a declaration is not required to access provincial support or for the township and residents to apply for disaster recovery programs if activated. Financial impacts are still being assessed because waters have only recently receded and some operations were ongoing while this report was being prepared. If the province activates disaster recovery programs, residents and eligible organizations may apply for the disaster recovery assistance for Ontarians, and the township may apply for the municipal disaster recovery assistance. The MDRA eligibility depends on extraordinary disaster-related costs exceeding normal budgets with a threshold of at least 3% of the township's own purpose taxation levy. If that threshold is met and the program is activated, council would need to pass a resolution and submit an initial claim with supporting documents within 120 days of the disaster start. During this event, several key improvements recommended after the 2019 flood event were successfully put into action. A bylaw amendment passed post-2019 allowed operational services to have direct authority to close roads immediately. Activation of the public alerting tool allowed residents downriver of the Burgess Dam to be warned of the overtopping in real time, and deployment of provincial flood barriers were ineffective in early water diversion on River Street. In closing, staff will debrief with ministry and partner agencies to capture lessons learned and identify further operational improvements, and we will provide council updates as damage assessments and funding eligibility become clearer. Thank you, and I'm here along with the CMC to answer any questions.
Thank you for that, Director Colucci. And before I yield to somebody else, I want to thank you very much. All of the team, the emergency response team or our control group did a phenomenal job. Thank you very much. I know it's tough to have to cope with and clean up behind messes that are not of your making, but you guys did just a tremendous, all of you did a tremendous job. So thank you. Councillor Zavitz and Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. And I certainly echo your comments to Public Works. Great job given the task. I guess I would ask first of you, Mr. Colucci, why you in your presentation did not acknowledge the 2016 flood and why you didn't acknowledge the high water that we had in 2022, which is essentially 50% more flood than you've alluded to in your presentation. Can you speak to that?
Director Colucci.
So through you, again, yes, we had other flooding. We looked at the 2019 flood as the major last flood. Obviously staff do look at all the flood levels because we're monitoring them all. But yeah, in this presentation, I just talked about those two.
Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. My question is to you. I am not clear. I had heard from another municipality that the district was actually, the Public Works Department was helping them with issues. Do we have knowledge of what the district was able to help us with or anything? Or did we reach out? I just don't know.
So you're suggesting that the Public Works Department at district were helping our team. Is that right?
No, I'm asking if they're helping others.
They're being who? The district Public Works?
Yes.
Okay.
Like if they're helping another municipality.
Oh,
for
I hear it.
instance.
Okay.
I don't know that that's real, but it looks substantial to me, so I wanted in on the help, I guess.
Chief Morrell looks keen. He knows.
Yeah, as was mentioned in the report, there's sections in the report that each of us took. There's a mention in there that daily we had what we call CEMC briefing meetings. So those were CEMCs, which is the Community Emergency Management Coordinator for each of the lower tiers, including the upper tier. And it was at that time that we would gather information about sharing which roads were closed. And in the Operational Services Division for the district, they were arranging for some of the provincial assets. It was really nice to have them do that because it meant that the Emergency Management Advisor was in that room so we could get provincial resources quicker. So they arranged some of that shipping of those aqua dams and some of those other things that were occurring. They also helped with those municipalities that could not post on Municipal 511, which is a tool that is used to tell people when roads are open or closed. And some of us here may get emails from them through Transnomus. And as well, their director on a regular basis was reaching out to the lower tier operational services directors and ensuring that they had all the supports that they needed because they have their own group shared arrangement during an emergency to share assets and resources, and that's approved through the CAO.
Councilor Nishikawa, go ahead.
Initially, and I'm trying to, you said a lot, thank you. You had said though that there was, I'm going to call them devices that were brought to provincially to sustain provincial stuff. What provincial stuff? Like that's where I'm kind of challenged because for instance, the Lake Joe Drock is a provincial stuff. Like I just don't know where that landed and how our municipality could maybe benefit.
Chief Morrell.
Through you, forgive me, you may have seen pictures of the aqua dams. They were like a dam that was put in place. So we actually had a contractor that had two of them that put in place on our spillway. You may right now drive by the two that are still on skids on River Street. So those were made available to us through the province. We do not own them. They came from the province. And those were just in case the dam overtopped and spilled down River Street like it did in 2019. We had a plan and we had made preparation to be in advance of that. If you went down Beaumont Drive and I believe on Fraserburg and Bracebridge, you would have seen the same dams being put in place to protect homes and to be able to make the roadway passable for emergency services. So those are the provincial resources that we were able to obtain this year that we did not get in 2019. So I got to say that only happened because we had the emergency management coordinator in the room from the province, the advisor, and she was able to arrange that very quickly. And it was all through help with the district hosting those meetings and really emphasizing what we needed to do. The district also did help, and we should mention this. As many know, they paid the freight for the Voyant Alert tool, which was a tool that we had suggested in our 2019 flood report. This council had suggested it, and that district does pay for it. And they do help us understand how to use it in these times of crisis. So that's just sort of another add-on.
Thank you for that. Councillor Zabitz.
Thank you. Through you again to Nick. So Nick, as you're the head of our emergency measures group, Public Works, well, thinking you guys work in such unison here. I guess the question I would have to you both then is, did you have enough information soon enough? And I'll explain this. We on the front lines out there are getting calls, text messages. How high is this water going to go when it's 1 inch over your dock and then it becomes 16 inches above your dock? No one knew. We didn't know how much water was coming, and yet everybody knows how much snow there is in Algonquin Park, and we got all the measurements, all this kind of good stuff. We had no information. So I'm going to ask you the question. Did you feel that you could have used more information from the MNR as it relates to what's coming? Because nobody knew what was coming. How can we in 2026 not know what's coming? That's ridiculous. And that's
okay, thank you, Councillor Zabitz. You've asked your question. Director Colucci.
So through you, Mr. Mayor. So again, predicting weather and predicting how fast snow will melt is a difficult thing. But during the event and prior to the event, we had pretty much daily meetings with the MNR, as part of the operational team and the CMC. There was another separate meeting for CMCs to have a meeting. There was a communication meeting that we had maybe 2 or 3 times a week. So we had lots of meetings with MNR. We were able to ask questions and we did specifically ask, so when do you think it's going to crest? And it wasn't until probably about 3 days before it was going to crest that they actually could say it's going to crest in the next week. So they were looking at their models and predicting. On top of that, as operations, we met daily with the district operations team. So all the municipality operational people met daily talking about resources and how we could share resources. And then also I had 3 times a week or 4 times a week meetings with with Parks Canada about their flooding in their areas in Lake Simcoe and that sort of thing. So we did have a lot of meetings talking about flooding, but we really didn't know when it would peak until only a few days before it did peak, because that's when they figured the problem was the temperatures were cool, the snow was not melting as fast as they thought it would because the evening temperatures were still cool. So every time they did their snow testing in Algonquin Park, there was still quite a bit of snow there. So that's the whole thing that, once we got a few warm days, then it seemed to melt faster.
Councillor Zabitz, you have a supplemental.
Supplemental. Interestingly, though, when it came, and I never stopped. And it went up, right? So when it was at 2 inches and then it became 13 or 14 inches above my dock, no one knew. And I just find this, so I guess my question to you would be, isn't that the kind of information you need to protect our township and our constituents when we're going to experience a 14-inch rise in the water? I'd never heard the word crest come out of anybody anywhere until it finally did. So there was no intimating that it's going to crest. Nobody knew how much water was coming. And I find that's my question. There must be, and it's going to come out of this, other ways to know, guys, wow, is this going to be a flood? And that's my question to you. You didn't know. No one knew.
Sorry, is that a question?
Well, the MNR. I'm going to go back to the same question. We don't know.
I understood. I think you turned your mic off, but understood. But is that, you've already answered that question, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, through you, Mr. Barrett. So the MNR is doing a prediction, and that's why the issue flood warning, flood watch, and, it did upgrade, over time. So, we started off like in late March, they had issued some warnings back then saying, we expect there's still a lot of snow where, and they look at the weather forecast for the next 7 days, every one of their notices, and they look at saying, okay, well, they say the temperature is, predicted between -5 and +12. And so it looks like but again, it's not an accurate, just like predicting the weather is not accurate, predicting how much water will enter the system is not accurate. And especially when, they say the forecast is for 20 millimeters of rain, and then we end up with 80 millimeters of rain. And, that was the problem too. The forecast was wrong many times over this flood period. So they were predicting showers with 10 millimeters of rain, and we would have 75 millimeters of rain the next day. It would rain all day. So, those things affect how fast the snow melts and how much water enters the system.
Thank you for that. Councillor Roberts, you were next, and then did you have your hand up? Councillor Mazan has your hand up. So Councillor Roberts, you're next.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question to Director Takuchi. I heard you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard you say on April the 10th, there was a notice from MNR saying that they anticipated high volumes. And then 3 days later, if I'm wrong, I heard that it was going to be the same as 2019. Is my understanding correct that, and on April the 13th, we all knew it was going to be, could be potentially as bad as 2019?
Director Colucci.
For you. So yes, the MNR did include, so they issued the flood warning, and then a few days later, they issued, the flood warning, but included in that was a note saying that the temperature, that levels will approach the 2019 levels, right? So they didn't say they will, but they said they could reach 2019 levels. And we were, of course, as staff, we're monitoring the levels every day in all three, there's 3 monitoring stations in Muskoka, so we're watching them every day. And sure enough, a few days after that, it did reach the 2019 peak and went a little above.
Thank you. Councillor Mazan.
Thank you, and through you. Just listening to the questions being asked and wanting to understand, how does the MNR communicate to the broader public these types of messages? Because I think I didn't, and the reason I'm asking this question is internally, I'm just reviewing the communications approach that was taken at TML level to reinforce those messages. There's then the district that was giving out messages, but given that the MNR is the one who's actually doing the entire program and analysis, and like I hear you trying to defend or whatever, but ultimately it's them. So I'm actually curious, if I know how I'm getting the information, but if you're the broader public, to Councillor Zavitz's comment, how is the MNR getting that message out to the broader public?
Director Colucci, are you aware of how the MNR?
So through you, there's about 4 different levels of communication that the MNR does. So there's one that's for the CEMC's only group, right? And there's one that's for the communication group. That's more meant for the public. So they distribute that to the communication group, and then the communication group can distribute that out. So we get that, as a township, and then our communication person will distribute that out. And then they also have a public notice that's on their website. And then there's one that is a little bit more, it's more of a informational, just talking about all the levels, the flows and that. And that also goes to the CMEC. So they send out, every time they send one of those notices out, there's about 4 of them going out, and they go to different groups, and only one of them is meant for public consumption. And that's also posted on their website. So that, as far as I don't think they go directly to the public, but they post it on their website, and they send it out to the communication groups that are also supposed to post it on their website. So that's really how it's communicated.
Thank you, Director Colucci. With supplemental.
Thank you. If I could I'm just trying to, I'm listening to Councillor Zavitz, and I'm thinking about the community that gets impacted. At the end of the day, whether it's 5 inches over the dock or 15, at the end of the day, you're flooding. And if there's still a gap, I just feel like that's a relevant piece of information for the MNR to be understanding and appreciating. I'm looking and knowing, I mean, we sat together through the 2019 flood and like night and day, honestly, between our ability to react and respond this period of time. We now actually have a communications person who's doing it. So from a township standpoint, like night and day, but I still think there's a gap. And that's what I think Councillor Zavitz, and I just want to make sure that that passion and the shared feeling of frustration is the MNR. It would be nice for them to understand that there's an increased need for us to be able to communicate a simplified, consistent message out to the people who are most impacted when a flood is actually, I guess in this case, going over their dock. So just a note, really a comment, but I just think the energy needs to be directed to the appropriate body at that point.
If, do you want to respond?
Yeah, I
Dr.
can respond.
Cloutier?
I mean, through you, Mr. Mayor. So, and I agree that, at times it seemed like communication wasn't enough because, as our communication team, we had separate meetings with the MNR about communication, about messaging and that those key messages that came out, that's as a result of having a direct meeting with the MNR and trying to get out of them what those key messages should be. But, I do feel that some of the messages like, when is it going to crest, or when do you think it's going to meet those levels, or when is it going to be above the NAS? They weren't giving that information. They were just saying, yep, we might have a flood. And somewhere down the road, it went up. And really, it was only 3 days before it did crest that they finally said, yep, looks like it's going to crest. But I think we all knew it was cresting because, the levels for 3 days was the same. So we sort of knew it was cresting, but they weren't able to get that information, right? So, I do believe that there is more that they could do, and just about releasing information about what they're doing with dam operations and earlier in the season, because they did do more with dam operations early in the season to try to lower the water more. Then we had rain, so when you look at it, there's a lot of things that they were doing in the background that they weren't communicating at all until it looked like we were going to flood.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask a quick question myself. Do you know if the MNR will be conducting a kind of a post-mortem on their performance through the last 90 days? And if so, will we be invited to give our feedback?
I'm not aware of any post-mortem. Typically after the event is over, they have another one last CEMC meeting just to go over that, but I haven't set that up yet.
Thank you. Anyone else with questions or comments? No, seeing none. Thank you, Director Cloutier. Appreciate that. Oh, sorry. CEO Pink has a question.
Not a question. I just wanted to thank the team, the emergency response. Obviously, emergency response is never a one department issue. And sort of back up, I appreciate a lot of structural damage in the community, and we appreciate that. And I think we need to turn our mind to prevention in the future and advocacy, and I think that's the next agenda item. But what we could control from an operational perspective, I just wanted to thank the team. It's not a one department matter, it's teamwork, and I think you did that, and you did it professionally, from communications to roads, facilities, emergency response. I really think it was a marked improvement from the 2019 flood. We were prepared, we knew what was coming, and we addressed those concerns proactively and professionally, I think. And I thank you for that. And you did that also during holding down your regular day-to-day tasks as well. I think that needs to be noted. This is above and beyond just the regular day-to-day duties. So just wanted to say thank you. But again, interested to discuss the next item on the agenda as well as to how we can prevent this moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Kent, for Director Cloutier.
And for
CEO Pink.
For both, really. We've done a great job on emergency management. I've never had an issue with that. I think everybody was right in front of the problem. But even after doing that, do we have any feeling for whether the damage from this flood is less or more than the 2019 damage? Like, we did all this remediation. If we hadn't done it, it would have been obviously much worse. Just wondering if you have any handle on that question. For the community.
Thank you. Through you. From the municipality's perspective, again, I think we learned a lot, and to the comments from Councillor Zavitz earlier, as much as the MNR may not be able to accurately predict day-to-day fluctuations and when a peak or what the exact level is, we did learn a lot from 2019, and we do have floodplain mapping, and we see the further extent of the largest flood to date, 2019. And I think that's why that flood was referenced in the report and not numerous others. And there is online mapping that actually you can go on your individual property and see the extent of flooding and where it will impact on your property. And the reason I raise that is, again, I think the municipality, through council's decisions, took proactive steps. We raised roads that we knew were impacted. It's taken some time, but we're upgrading the Berlis Dam to make sure. So when it comes to damages, to your specific question, I think I turn to Mr. Director Colucci. I think levels just receding. We're doing those assessments now to see what damage. I don't believe we have any accurate information on private property damage. But again, I think part of the resolution before you next on the agenda is to encourage the province to activate that funding so that property owners can apply.
Thank you for that. Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you. It's for you. Some of this will be discussed in the next point, but I guess CAO Pink, outcomes, right? That's really what I and many others are focused on, is what happens next. So hard questions here, and I'm going to ask you this with all due respect. 2019, 2026, what did we do better? What did the Township of Muskoka Lakes really do better? And that's a high level question, because at the end of the day, our boathouses were still full of water in both occasions. We didn't have any deaths in 2019. We didn't have any deaths in 2026. I'm not hearing about huge infrastructure damage. So in either case, so I'm very interested in what we did better as a learning for later and outcomes. Like, I want this to change. So what did we learn from the fact that we were better in 26 than 19? What does that mean? Can you?
CAO Pink.
Thank you, through you. I think it was important that I did preface my comments that what we can control from an operational perspective. And no, the municipality didn't stop the flood from happening, nor do I think we have the ability to stop the flood from happening. But what was under our control, I think there's a page in the report that specifically highlights what I think are a number of notable improvements from 2019. Again, if you recall, in 2019, I think a large number of roads were either partially closed or fully closed, had to be raised during the event. That did not occur this time. We had a nominal amount of roads that were partially impacted. I believe only South Monk Drive, which is a seasonal road, was fully closed, as well as River Street, which was precautionary. The other notable improvement, again, I think in 2019, we learned a lot about the Berlis Dam, and there was a lot of be honest, sort of last minute scrambling to try to address that situation and ensure that it was safe. This year, we were proactive, had the spillways, the sandbagging in place prior to the floodwaters reaching that level. I think the other really hats off really to the communication team. I think our communication for this flood was markedly improved from the 2019 flood. We had regular consistent messaging, daily messaging to council, to the community, website updates, voice alert, on and on. So I think, again, importantly, from an operational perspective and what we could control, I think there were improvements to the 2019 flood. Did we stop it? No.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? There's no resolution on this, just for information only. Chief Morrell.
Sorry, I just want to mention too, council has done a lot to support assets and upgrades. And one of them I drove on the other day was Gross Road. Those 3 culverts that were placed, that we had upgraded and we put in place, we chose 3 because we knew that flooding could occur in that area. And that is exactly what happened during this flood. So council is becoming more informed from these events, and that information is coming to you through the way that you upgrade the asset after the fact. So that goes right to when you give us money in the fire department to have a better vessel to do things for flooding, or when you increase our training in the fire department, or you give us assets like having another person do communications, because we can see that there's real value to all of those pieces, especially when we're in these events. So I just want to say that this body's doing that great work, and you're doing great. So keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay. Somewhere here, I've got notes. Okay, next up is a resolution that is being moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Zavitz. I'm going to operate on the theory that the resolution speaks for itself pretty much. I will have a couple of comments after it's read in. I'm also going to vacate the chair because I shouldn't be chairing a resolution that I am making or moving. So if Councillor Mazan can take the chair, I will move over. Thank you.
Sweet. Thank you. Okay. So Council, this is a fairly lengthy resolution that Mayor Kelley and Councillor Zavitz have brought forward. And I think to help best facilitate the discussion, I'm going to read the resolution and then I'll open it up to the group to ask for questions and comments at that time. And just given the sensitivity, given the length of it, there's tremendous thought that's gone into this resolution. I'll ask Mayor Kelley to lead off and then have Councillor Zavitz follow. And then after that, I'll open up the questions and comments to the larger group. So with that, please be patient. Here I go. Moved by Mayor Kelley, seconded by Councillor Zavitz. Whereas the Township of Muskoka Lakes and its residents experienced significant and damaging flooding during the 2026 spring freshet, resulting in extensive impacts to municipal infrastructure, private property, local businesses, roads, the natural environment, and the well-being of residents. And whereas many residents experienced severe financial hardship, property damage, displacement, loss of access, and ongoing uncertainty associated with elevated water levels and flooding conditions. And whereas municipalities within the Muskoka River watershed have repeatedly raised concerns regarding increasing flood frequency, changing climatic conditions, watershed management practices, and the need for coordinated and transparent flood mitigation planning. And whereas in April 2021, the province of Ontario announced an initial investment of more than $4 million to support 13 projects intended to examine existing conditions within the Muskoka River watershed, identifying opportunities to reduce the impacts of flooding and address the overall health of the watershed. And whereas those technical studies and initiatives have since been substantially completed, flood modification review project, and provide extensive analysis, data, and recommendations, yet many residents and municipalities remain concerned that the findings have not resulted in meaningful implementation actions or tangible flood mitigation measures. And whereas in November 2024, the Ministry of Natural Resources committed in written correspondence signed by the Honourable Graydon Smith, Minister of Natural Resources, to review and make necessary amendments to the Muskoka River Water Management Plan in an effort to better mitigate flood risks throughout the watershed. And whereas the township and residents affected by the 2026 flooding continue to seek greater transparency, accountability, and public engagement regarding water management decisions and operational considerations leading up to and during flood events. And whereas activation of disaster recovery assistance programs is necessary to ensure comprehensive support for all affected parties within the community. And whereas the financial impacts of flooding are not limited to primary residents, and significant losses are also experienced by owners of seasonal and second homes that contribute substantially to the provincial economy and local tax base. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Muskoka Lakes requests the Province of Ontario to take immediate action to reconfirm its November 2024 commitment to undertake a comprehensive review and update of the Muskoka River Water Management Plan. Reaffirm its January 2025 commitment to assess recommendations from its Muskoka Watershed Conservation and Management Initiative, including updates to the Muskoka River Watershed Management Plan, and a public engagement and consultation process to hear from interested parties in the watershed, including municipal partners and other dam operators. Establish as a matter of priority a formal implementation framework for said review and update process, including clearly defined deliverables, publicly reported milestones, firm completion timelines, assigned ministry responsibilities, and regular public progress reporting, so as to ensure the review is commenced immediately, completed in a timely and accountable manner, and results in tangible flood mitigation actions and outcomes for effective watershed communities. Convene one or more public information sessions within the affected watershed communities by no later than mid-June 2026 for the purpose of hearing directly from residents impacted by the 2026 flood event, providing information regarding water management decisions and operational considerations leading up to and during the spring freshet, and responding to questions and concerns from affected residents and municipalities, all of which to be on the public record. Activate the Disaster Recovery Assistance for Ontarians, DRAO, and Municipal Disaster Recovery Assistance, MDRA, programs for all affected communities arising from the 2026 spring freshet flooding event, and expedite the review and approval process to ensure timely access to financial assistance. And amend criteria under the Disaster Recovery Assistance for Ontarians program to also include seasonal and secondary residential properties in recognition of the unique characteristics and economic realities and benefits of watershed and seasonal municipalities. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, the Honourable Minister Harris Jr., Minister of Natural Resources, the Honourable Minister Flack, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Honourable Minister McCarthy, Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, the Honourable Graydon Smith, Associate Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, all First Nations and municipalities within the Muskoka River watershed, the District Municipality of Muskoka, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. So that is the resolution. I will now ask Mayor Kelley if you would like to lead off the discussion. I know these drinks. Which one do you want?
Thank you. That went on so long, I got dry.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Before we turn it over to everybody, I just want to say a couple of things. There's no one action or act that's going to solve this problem definitively and completely. There's a lot that has been written by some of the people who wrote a Hatch study, for instance, that it's unlikely this could ever be stopped completely. So the primary goal is to isolate the factors that contribute to the devastation caused by the flooding and also the frequency of the flooding. In this particular case, as you've heard, the request is that the province, the MNR, take up and continue or complete the work that they were supposed to have completed some time ago, based on a commitment that was received from the then Minister of MNR, Natural Resources, back in the end of 2024. And to my knowledge, I've seen nothing that has been produced by that promise. It really just involves looking and adjusting the parameters whereby water is moved, the flow over water control structures, the depth of water at which it's allowed to operate, the frequency and timing and duration of changes in water level. Have a look at those kind of factors and see if we can't do a better job of managing the extent of the flooding in the future based on some of those changes. The good news is some of this has already been scoped. There's a scope plan from, I believe it's, I think it was just 2 years after the last, 21 or something. There was a scoping exercise done to identify where to start, how to build this project and how to complete it. It's on the public record. So a big chunk of the work that needs to be done, I believe, has been done. The rest of it is fairly self-explanatory and documented in the scoping document and in the water management plan document that was released along with the MWAG stuff in 24, I think it was. So I don't think we're asking for anything ground shaking or new. We're asking for a committed time to get that work completed, periodic progress reports to get it just so that we can track it and make sure it's being diligently worked on. We're looking at the offer of financial assistance through the province on a timely basis to help remedy the damages that were incurred during this flood. We're asking for a public meeting, not a public meeting, I think that has a term that we don't all use properly, a meeting engaging the public and allowing the public to attend so that they can hear the story that's going forward. And frankly, I think we're asking to have a bit of an analysis done on what didn't happen this year that contributed to the situation that we're in. Councillor, I'll let you go.
Okay, so you're done?
I'm done.
Okay. Councillor Zavitz, if you'd like to add any comment.
Thank you. Certainly when the mayor called and talked to me about this resolution, I'm certainly a fan of getting to the end game, which I think as the CAO had mentioned, he used the word prevention. The reason I supported this was really, it came out of the notion that the flooding has got to stop. And I know some people are saying we've got to slow it down and we've got to do something so we minimize. I think the flooding has to stop. I think it's plain and simple. I think the action must now take over from all the words for all these years. And people are already saying this resolution, what is it? It's a piece of paper. Is it going to have an impact at Queen's Park? Well, one can cross your fingers and hope it is, but I think they need to make physical alterations to the watershed. They know what they need to do to mitigate the flows that are coming your way. Why call into jeopardy $14 billion worth of, just in our township alone in terms of assessed property values? It just doesn't make any sense. I think the MNR for the first time needs to actually make emotional commitments. They must finally occur because people again are calling, essentially BS. What are they going to do? Nothing. What have they done? But I think too, a point that I'd like to make is that the public record for the first time in 2026, people on social media had a voice, whether it's the MLA or all the other special interest groups and all the other people, individuals who are experiencing the pain and suffering, emotional, fiscal, financial, they have got to be heard. And if we wait till, June 15th and don't keep track of all of what the Township of Muskoka Lake said about it, people are fine this weekend. Here's the weekend. It's over. The flood's over. The water's gone down. We'll forget just how impactful this really was. It's affected everybody that is a lakefront water dweller. And so I just think we need to keep the pressure on. And that's why I supported this resolution. And I hope it's seen that way because a lot of people have asked for change. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, committee, Councillor Kent.
I'm going to have a couple of questions, but the up front ones are pretty easy and they may go to Mayor Kelley and then to Mr. Zavitz. First of all, how does this, there was a supplementary that came out of the same, what was the difference between the two? It wasn't redlined and I couldn't cross-reference it.
Somebody. Okay.
You want me to go one at a time?
Yes, just
Okay.
let's just
Tag I'm it. Thank you through you. The first change was in paragraph 4. It spoke to the 12 projects and we changed that to 13. There was an additional one and that came, I think, from Bracebridge that pointed that out. The second change was in the bullet points. It was the second bullet point. So reaffirming its January 2025 commitment, that bullet point got added. So those were the two changes from the original resolution.
Okay. My second question is how, and I think this is really for Mayor Kelley. We just listened to Nita Hunter, who represents 2,000 people who signed a petition, as well as a bunch of very smart people who've written really good letters, such as David Mackey, Nita Hunter. I have really couldn't follow all of the details of Nita's letter. I had not seen it ahead of time. How does this resolution address the issues that she raised? And should we be evaluating that letter in more detail before we go off and sign this resolution, because there's a lot of work done by her. And I mean, I haven't processed it because I haven't seen it. Okay, and I don't know if any of us have processed it because nobody knew what she was going to say today. And to do it due respect, I think we need to be evaluating it, making sure it gets incorporated into this resolution to the extent we can. I think it's going in the right direction. I'm disappointed to see no firm date. I know it's the middle of June for a meeting, and I'm also disappointed to see that we don't have a requirement for any of the honorable people that we have listed here to show up at this meeting. And unless I'm misunderstanding that, that's not what we want, and that's not what the community wants. Community wants to be able to speak to the people who know the answers, or at least make sure that they hear. So I don't know how we get their commitment, because saying we're going to try to get their commitment is one thing, but we don't even say that we're working to get their commitment to show up at this meeting. So 2 points, Nita's issue, and then the second one is the second one.
Okay. Kelly?
Thank you, and through you. A couple of things, and I read the letters that came in. Most of them were fairly identical, but I read every one of them. The problem, and it's not a problem, the issue that we have to respect is we don't have jurisdiction over what 95% of this problem. We can't control the water flow. We can beg, we can ask. We don't control those ministers. In fact, quite the contrary. We're a product of their statutes. When you take a look at how this entity, Township of Muskoka Lakes, was created, it's by act of provincial statute. So we have engaged with them. I had, I won't say surprised, but I was pleased to be able to spend an hour on the phone, almost an hour on the phone, with the new Minister of Natural Resources, explaining the catastrophe that had been created and the need for this meeting. There's two or three things. The other thing is that a lot of the issues that come up are not within our control. Anything that's being done at the district level, there's 4 of us that go to district council and vote against 17 that don't always vote with. I think we've heightened the engagement and the commitment. One of the things that I think we did, quite frankly, really well was engage with the rest of the lower tiers and the district itself. This same resolution, I believe, is coming to district council on Tuesday of next week or Wednesday of next week. At the end of the day, we will continue to delegate, we will continue to push, and we'll continue to fight hard. There's been a tremendous amount of money invested in the work to date, understanding what is within the realm of possible. It's moving it all into the next step. That's important. One of the things that I think is important about the commitment we already have from the Minister of Natural Resources is that the scoping on that work has already been done. The actual work itself is probably the fastest and least expensive of all the work that's being prescribed to be done. If we're going to, take a look at replacing or rebuilding all of the water control structures, we're talking about tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. There's no way this is going to cost that price. There's a reasonable shot, I'm an optimist, that this could well be done and in place for the next freshet.
Can I follow up with 2 questions?
Well, I haven't answered your first one. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
No,
Go ahead.
Just one question.
Thank you. For me, I would like to actually ask Mayor
Okay.
Kelley to respond, and then I will come back to you. Thank you.
So, to the extent that we have read and understood the inbound information, this is our best shot. This is how we can possibly avoid, if we decide we want to go for water control structures or artificially intelligent driven programs to decide how and when to open and close dams, we're years away from anything. We'll still be facing the same problems this time next year and the year after that. This is an attempt to get something done and in place to mitigate the risk today while the bigger stuff gets handled separately.
So
There was a
I'd like-
second question, I don't
Yeah.
recall.
Okay, thank you.
Second question was, I guess one way to approach it would be to at least put in some language that says we will work our best efforts to get these people or some subset of these people to show up at the meeting, rather than just saying, it's not addressed in here. I'd like to see these people come. You don't need to be the face of all their problems.
No,
Okay.
I don't mind.
No, but I think that they should be here and they should hear the constituents. So I'd like to see those people, at least some wording that says, we will use our best efforts And that'll include district.
Seconder can vote on. I mean, that's how we would amend a resolution.
Okay.
Okay, so let me just, let's put that idea. I
Yeah.
just want to hear from everybody else first. I think the
Okay.
idea,
And the only thing that wasn't addressed was Nita's points. What was missing? I thought there were a bunch of things that she said that were not
It came
included.
so fast. You mean on this?
Yeah, I
It
know.
came so fast, but most of them were district. Most of them, she was even referencing the district and MWAG, and those are all district issues, and I'm happy to take them to district, but they're not within our control. We play, I mean, I hate to say this, but we're getting really good at cleaning up other people's messes. That's really the situation.
I
We will
respect that.
lobby, we will influence, we've delegated at least, I don't know how many times I mean, anything that's within, even remotely helpful, we've taken those steps over the last several years. And
I mean,
I have my own opinion, I won't express it, but why it gets no traction, but it's not getting the traction so far.
but if there's $1.5 billion of damage every couple of years, it easily pays for $200 million of reworking of hydro plants. Like that's the decisions that need to be made at a
So-
much higher level than us.
so I think just if I can, I'm trying to summarize, I'm trying to organize, I think the 3 different portions of this resolution, just to simplify for a moment. The first is creating an opportunity for the MNR to engage with the public effectively. And that was a significant ask being made over the last, which is create this opportunity. I'm trying to summarize it in my own language here. The second thing is to act upon something that is a live opportunity. This is like scoping study has actually been completed by the appropriate governing bodies, which is the Hatch Engineering Report in 2022 or 23 or whenever it was. We have an agreement. There's a process. Is it frustrating? Yes. It takes a long time, but this actually was a live opportunity that this body, the district, and quite frankly, the provincial government through signed has agreed to open. So we want to make sure we don't compromise that, continue that process. Councillor Zavitz brought up another opportunity, which is the structural mitigation. There's been many studies that have been completed. It's all available on the public record. Going down that is a whole other set of, I mean, we've sat around here. If that's of interest, we can go down that. But what's in front of us today is a response to the immediate flood. Let's make sure we can create an opportunity. I'm summarizing and I'm looking to the 2 that have actually authored this, but an opportunity to get the appropriate group together, which is the MNR, the provincial government, with our affected constituents. The second is let's continue the work on the operating plan. And when I say continue, let's live up to the commitment that was made. And then the third thing, which sorry, is the other piece, which was the funding. That is something separate that would allow for some access to financial assistance. So that's what's in front of us today. So I just want to make sure that there's a lot of emotion clearly from all of us on this topic, and it's obviously a long resolution. I hope if I can look to the mover and the seconder, did I just summarize that somewhat eloquently? Okay. Let me just then ask the remainder of the group here. Is there anybody else who would like to either ask a question, provide a comment on the resolution that's in front of us today? I see Councillor Roberts and Councillor Kent. Could you please just turn off your mic? Thank you.
Thank you. Just a comment and a suggestion. In one of the resolutions, I had it in front of you, it just appeared. It was to have regular reporting on this matter. And I would suggest that we should add this to our quarterly agendas. On every quarter, we should be getting an update what the progress is to date.
Okay. I just made note of that, but I saw more importantly that CAO Pink made a note of that. So, Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I'm going through you, but I'm not sure that I'm stepping out of line.
Okay.
There's a number of people in the audience that I'm wondering if we could take public comment.
So I think what we have right now is we actually have a resolution in front of us, and this is our opportunity as the body to talk as a council about, is this a resolution that's been brought forward from Mayor Kelley and Councillor Zavitz? If everybody had an opportunity to delegate like Ms. Major did, she followed the process. That's how this works. And I think it's our leadership here. We have to decide, is this the appropriate steps to take forward to facilitate the appropriate opportunity for people to delegate. So that would be my comment on that, unless Mayor Kelley, did you want to add to that or, okay. Are there any other questions or comments on the resolution? Yeah,
I was hoping you were going to put that
Councillor.
language in, so I will find a seconder if somebody who's willing to just says, we will use our best efforts to get these people to attend the meeting. Okay, I don't want them skirting out the language. There is no language in there that says they need to come or that we're even going to ask them. It's sent to them like a missile into world, but I want to see them show up and stand in front of the crowd.
Okay.
And I also question, we really, the way this worked and that Ms. Hunter presented first, and now we're looking at the resolution, means that she can't comment on the resolution. I mean, we never made a connection between these two things. And that concerns me a bit, but I'd at least like to add that language in there.
Okay, so I think Director Besseraris would like to comment or help assist.
I'm just looking for clarification. So
Okay.
in the last section with all the bullets, it says that the council of the Township of Muskoka Lakes requests the province of Ontario to take immediate action to, and then I'm jumping to the fourth bullet, that they convene one or more public information sessions to do just that. So I'm just wondering, are you looking to change that so that we're hosting something and inviting them? Or like, I'm just.
I
I'm looking for
interpreted this as
specific-
we were hosting and they were attending at our request.
No, I read it as
If we're asking them to attend, convene and attend, then we need to be clear that we are asking them to convene a meeting and attend on behalf of the TML constituents. I didn't read it that way. No, I guess, I guess you're right, but it doesn't say we will use our best efforts to make sure that they attend.
Okay, so I think from a process standpoint,
I mean, it does say the council requests the province to do this. It's the attendance of the responsible people that is, maybe that's the word that we'd like, attendance of the knowledgeable and responsible people for these matters. In the third bullet point, you could add just a little subset there.
okay, so from a, we've had a resolution brought forward by Mayor Kelley and Councillor Zavitz, a minor modification being recommended. Councillor Zavitz?
On a different
Okay,
subject.
can you, did you mind holding off for just when, I don't see anybody else putting their hand up to second adding that amendment in. Councillor Kent at this point, but if it changes.
Nobody
we'll have
wants to add, nobody wants the people to show up. They don't care.
I'm just saying the process as follows to an amendment here.
Okay, that's
I'm
fine.
not seeing that we have the process, so that may change, but I think that's why the clerk was asking the question. Councillor Zavitz?
Thank you, and through you. I think because this is a giant-sized topic, I would certainly find it helpful to hear from a few people that are in the audience. I know it's unorthodox and that we may not have a process where we can in fact hear from anyone, but we have some pretty significant people and chairs in this room who have much insight into this topic. And I don't know if there's a seconder required or if it's, we're not even allowed, but I would certainly think if it's 2 minutes, the public should be heard. Thank you.
Give me one.
Chair, if I might.
Hold on for a second. There was a request made and I just want to try and understand from a process standpoint. So, Director Ferraris, this is a good test.
Thank you. So through you to, per the procedural bylaw, if you wish to allow to open it up, there'd be two rules that need to be suspended because there was no notice provided for everybody to come and make public comment. And then, of course, it wasn't on the agenda. So we would just need to put a motion on the floor to suspend the rules, and just a note that that will require 2/3 vote to pass.
All right. Thank you. And through you to that point, I'm just presuming that people are here, they may just be here sitting. I'm not presuming that they need to stand up and speak. If they have something to say is, I guess, more to my point. So people are here in the room, but maybe they don't want to speak. So I don't know how we get to that point.
There are also a lot of people on Zoom.
My apologies, my mic was off there. So let me just quickly summarize, just trying to make sure that everybody who is wanting to participate, I feel like the motion that has been brought forward by Mayor Kelley and Councillor Zavitz is trying to create the appropriate path forward, as noted. And I just want to make sure that we're doing this consistently and with an accountability and transparency, and the way that you have put that thought into this actual resolution versus doing things on the fly or ad hoc. I think we want to be careful with that. Personally, that's my opinion, but I think Mayor Kelley also had his hand up, so.
No, I was literally deferring to you, Madam Chair. It's your chair.
Geez. Maybe I should have put the motion forward and you could have chaired this portion. I think I saw Councillor Roberts' hand up, and then I will come back to you, Councillor Zavitz.
Yes, you saw me nodding and stuff like that. I'd be totally against that because we have a process. I sent an email out to my large distribution list saying, if you want, I took the communique that the Township had, if you wanted to delegate, fill out the form. So there's people in the room that might want to speak. There could be people online that may speak. We have a process. We've got to fill it, change, got to adhere to that process, in my opinion.
Okay. Councillor Zavitz, can I come back to you? Because I have not heard from Councillor Bosenworth yet, and then I will come back just out of respect to making sure everybody gets heard. Councillor Bosenworth.
Thank you, and I'll be careful on my wording here. There's been a lot of suffering by our community, and we are in this motion asking the people who are in charge of the water plan and the only ones who can really influence the outcome. We're asking them to become accountable. And that's a pretty simple ask, and I'm not sure that there's going to be much public input on that ask. And we're not the ones who can answer any of their questions. So I don't want to be in a position where they're going to asking questions that we have no authority or capability to answer. And I just think we've got a pretty simple resolution here. I don't feel that I need any public input on it. I think this is what the public has been asking for. And I think we should just move on and have our vote. We might want to change some of the wording has been suggested, but I wouldn't recommend that either at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zavitz, did you have no? Okay. Oh, this is a big one. I'm not rereading anything. So I am not hearing an interest on changing the language. I didn't hear a second on that motion. And I don't see any other hands up. I just want to make sure this is an important topic. So I've read the Councillor Zavitz.
Just for the record and everybody watching, I would have no problem if someone came forward right now and had input to this resolution to make it better for the constituents in our township. And that is a process that we have here, which is if two people put some sort of motion for it, and I don't have one, but I'm just saying, until it's finally voted on, I would have no problem with if input to this resolution to make it better is all I'm saying. So there seems to be a notion here that this is the resolution and this is it in its entirety, but I think that there's flexibility around this table. That's all I'm saying. That's all.
I appreciate that. And I think that offer has been out on the table. That's what I'm suggesting. And if we're not following that process, we all know it, we live it all the time. So there's nothing nefarious happening here. Right? The opportunity exists. And Mayor Kelley, did you have your hand up or?
I think you caught it when you said there was no appetite around the table to amend it. So.
Right. So I have read the resolution. Not seeing anything else. Councillor Ken?
I thought Mr. Zavitz said that I don't think we need to have an open forum for discussion, but why wouldn't we accept input on the specific, if anyone wants to talk and they want to comment on this resolution, I think it would only make us look like we're listening and we're including the comments from the public. And as long as the comments are limited to the resolution and how they can improve that and what we're asking.
So I'd like to draw it back again, what Director Best-Perez just walked us through. There is that venue.
So we vote on it.
We can, if we want the 2/3 vote, but I didn't hear either one of you say you're willing to put the motion forward and second it. So if we are hearing that, then we will follow that process. Just while the two of you are talking, I'm going to ask Councillor Burry to have a chance to speak, please.
Oh, thank you. This is a serious and highly emotional issue. We're in a process to try and have those that are accountable to take account. And I look at this resolution as pretty good. It gets us another step forward. Wordsmithing by committee is painful, as I've been quoted before. I'd like to see us settle on this, recognizing this is just another step towards the destination of trying to understand what the long-term pieces that we can do within our larger community to abate flooding damage. Anyone that thinks they're going to stop flooding, it's never going to stop. Water is going to find the easiest way to get there, and that's what water does. And I learned that in about grade 3. Maybe because my dad was in water, don't know. But I think that we've got to, because it is such an emotionally charged issue, if we just get a stake in the ground, I think this particular motion was pretty well thought out and well constructed. And I did note that the mayor took the side so that you'd have to read it, Chair Mazan. I mean, yes. I'm pretty sure that he did that just so you'd have to read the whole resolution. But I'd like to see us just get along with this. We know who the players are that can help us along and understand. And I don't think there's been any closed doors to understanding where they're coming from and how they can help us. But this is just another step in what I hope will be a far better resolution at the end. And quite frankly, I think some of us need to start shaking the cage in the Ontario government and let them know that their seats aren't safe. This is just but one issue, Bill 100. I mean, ramming a district chair down our throat is the end of democracy. There are some things going on in Queen's Park that we should probably be pushing back with hard. This is one of them. And I think that, we need to take a stand for sure, but I'm not sure about rehashing here today when we've got a motion on the table that's well thought out, well written. So let's deal with that and then come back and see where we can take it next time.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ken, if you can turn off your mic again as well, please. If committee, council could just indulge me for a minute. I need to get some advice from our clerk because I think there's some nuances here that I'm not fully understanding. Committee, I think actually we need to take a 10-minute break. I need to get some consultation, so I'm going to give everybody 10 minutes and we will be back here at 20 to 3. About this, excuse me, guys. This is really important. This one is such a sensitive topic. I just want to remind council that we have a resolution that is live right now. We cannot talk about this in the 10-minute break. So with your indulgence, give the few of us 10 minutes to figure out the next steps. Thank you. Councillors.
Through you, could I help everyone understand why the resolution's in front of us and you've read it, why wouldn't we just vote on it? So you suggesting there would maybe amendments?
Well,
Well,
not amendments, that there's 2 people who have indicated an interest to open it up to the broader community. And so this is why for consultation, I just need 10 minutes. Thank you. I'm asking for the 10 minutes because our clerk is guiding me right now. And I want to make sure that we do this properly. Thank you. No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I need 10 minutes. And there's no speaking from the floor. This is a sensitive topic and I want to make sure that I have done this right. And I need the guidance from the 2 people sitting beside me to make sure we do this properly. Thanks. Okay, we're still waiting, but I think we'll just get started. Counselor Zavitz and Counselor Kent had introduced, and I just want to confirm from the two of you that you would still like to put forward a motion to suspend the rules of procedure to allow for public engagement today. And if you do, then I can read that. And if you're interested, then I can read that motion.
I think I was interested, but I don't think he was interested.
Okay, Counselor Zavitz?
I'd be happy to second that motion. If so inclined, but that still forces a 2/3 vote, correct?
So I think I'll let Director Best, did you want to explain now, or do you want me to read this first? Okay. Thank you for your help today, by the way. This is helpful. Moved by Counselor Zavitz, seconded by Counselor Kent. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 2.3.2 of the Township's procedural bylaw 2023-089, as amended, the rules of procedure be hereby suspended in regards to the provision of notice and public comment requirements to allow for further comments from the public for the remainder of item 10A, re Muskoka watershed flooding, and that the rules of procedure be reinstated at the conclusion of said item. So are there any questions or comments? I think Director Desperez, would you like to explain just again the 2/3? This what you had explained earlier, just so everybody's clear.
Yep, happy to do so. So the resolution in front of you is to suspend the rules per the procedural bylaw. It does require 2/3 vote, so we will need 6 because we have 9 counselors today for this to pass.
I'm just wondering if you could also just expand upon if this does go through, what this is essentially allowing us to do, so that, and what you were trying to explain to me earlier at the break. Thanks.
Thank you, and through you. So typically, if we are going to have a public meeting or open up the floor for people to speak, we would do so prior to the meeting so that it allows any member of the public to come provide comment on that item. And at that point, we would make the Zoom link public. So just to advise committee at this point, obviously we do have some people in the room here with us, but the public or the link for the Zoom portion of the meeting was never made public. So unless they were sent the link directly by somebody who was given it by staff, it was never made available to the general public. So I just want to make sure that's council is aware of that item as well. So that's a little bit of a difference as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zavitz?
Thank you, through you. So I'm just wondering what that means. Are we excluding 98% of the public for the sake of 2 association presidents and the ex-mayor who experienced 2019 as a flood? I mean, what is that? What are the implications of that for we as a council right here and now?
I think it was just noted that many people, it wasn't shared as a public meeting, and there's many people who would not be able to participate.
We can't do it.
Thank you. And that now you understand why I wanted to take the 10-minute break. I just needed to make sure that we were understanding procedurally what this meant and as a whole body before we put our hands up to vote. So I now have this resolution that I've read. Everybody has an understanding. Other questions or comments? Councillor Kent?
Does that mean that all the people that are on Zoom, even though they're on Zoom, could not, I mean, I know you said the people haven't been notified, so there wasn't a separate link sent out, but the people who are already on Zoom can't speak?
Director Perez, please.
Thank you, through you. I'm not saying that would be up to the chair and this council. The note is that it was not shared from staff to the public. So anybody who is on the Zoom meeting right now were shared the link from somebody else. So there was it wasn't provided to all of the public. So I just want to make that clear that there are people online right now, but they were not provided the link in a public forum.
But they can ask a question if this were to get passed, which I suspect it won't, but if it were to get passed, they can ask a question. There are other people who are admitted. democratic about it. I understand that.
If you pass this, you are suspending the rules, so it is up to this table what you do from there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the indulgence. Everybody, is there any last questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? Okay, that is defeated. So now I am going back to the original motion. I've read it. And we've had a conversation. I do want to open up. Any last questions or comments? I'm not seeing any. I will now call the question. All those in favor? Okay, that carries. Thank you very much. I do want to thank Mayor Kelley and Councillor Zavitz for putting the time in and coming up with a resolution to help us with the path forward. This is, as noted by many of us around the table, an incredibly emotional topic. And for those of us who are personally impacted and the communities that surround us, it's highly emotional. And with that takes time to make sure we do things procedurally the right way, which I appreciated everybody's indulgence on that today, and make sure that we conduct ourselves in this body to try and create a best and a most thoughtful approach forward. So I just want to thank you, and thanks Mayor Kelley for giving me the opportunity to take up most of your meeting today. I think I'm done. I don't know. Now I don't know what to do. Am I done? I can't talk anymore because I've read my resolution. So I'll turn it over and you can talk to Mayor Kelley. These guys run a tight ship. I'm sorry.
Councillor Zavitz.
Mayor, through you, Chair. Yeah, I've heard the word emotional a number of times in the last hour, and I don't quite understand it. This is so beyond emotional. This is fiscal. This is everything to do with, I don't know, 7,382 water dwellers on Lake Muskoka and the Moon River, et cetera, Lake Joe and Lake Rosso, who were affected by this flood. So, you know, sure, there's emotion, but I think it's much more fundamental than that. Just for the record, we need to acknowledge that the words here today and the actions today are really about people that we're representing who just don't want this again, and they're sick and tired of it. And that's what I like to say. Thank you for that opportunity, Mayor.
Thank you. Noted. Thank you very much. This whole thing. Okay, evidently in our speed to move along, I skipped over a resolution. It's quicker that way. This has to do with the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Community Enhancement Program. But we're going to have a presentation on it? No, there's no presentation. I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Mazan. Whereas the Township of Muskoka Lakes is committed to creating sustainable recreation that promotes healthy communities and embraces the strengths of our natural environment and small town character. And whereas the Township of Muskoka Lakes has adopted a Parks and Recreation Master Plan to guide the development of parks to fulfill this vision. And whereas the Township of Muskoka Lakes has adopted a community improvement plan that identifies enhancements to public spaces to improve community vitality. And whereas Hannah Park is recognized as a community park and a major recreational asset for the Township of Muskoka Lakes. And whereas the Township of Muskoka Lakes has identified the revitalization of Hannah Park as a priority in its 10-year capital plan. And whereas the Township of Muskoka Lakes has approved funding for the revitalization of Hannah Park in the form of the replacement of the existing playground and boat launch through the 2026 capital budget. And whereas the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, NOHFC, supports community recreation infrastructure by providing a grant funding through its Community Enhancement Program. Now therefore be it resolved that Council endorses and supports the Township of Muskoka Lakes application to the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Community Enhancement Program for the revitalization of Hannah Park. And that if the Township is successful in obtaining a grant funding, the Township is committed to cover its financial contributions towards the project as approved in the 2026 capital budget, along with any project cost overruns should they be incurred. Anybody got any questions on that? Any comments? And I will call it. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Okay, next up, we heard a discussion earlier about the partial demolition of a building in on River Street, I believe it was. We do have a presentation. We must. Oh, there we are. Welcome. This is your first time, right?
Thank you, Mayor Kelley, and to the rest of council. Yes, I do have a small presentation. I want to say thank you very much for your consideration of the staff report. You'll find it starting on page 81. What this presentation does is really just brings the subject property, 1273 Moon River Road, into the council chambers. So there was, before you right now, you'll see an aerial photo that's in the staff report. In essence, the original farm structure is the green block. It's closest to the river itself. And the addition that's being proposed to be demolished is in behind. If you've been on the property, there was a question about whether it was subject to any flooding, and the answer is yes. But the property is really split into two different zones. There'll be a high lawn where the existing farmhouse and addition is located, and there'll be a lower lawn, and that's where the waters come up. So can I have the next slide, please? So I want to say thank you to the agent, Melissa Markham. She gave us some really excellent materials for council to consider. And this photo that they've provided, which is in the staff report, really shows the side view of the heritage structure, which would be closest to me. So it would be on the, I guess you would say, the right of this photo. And the addition that is to be removed is on the left side. And as it was presented to council, the original structure, as best we can determine, was built in 1920, but the addition that's proposed to be removed was in 1985. So next slide, please. This is what the owner is intending to construct on the property, and you can see the farmhouse itself is going to be retained, and an updated addition is proposed where the existing addition is today. So there will be a couple new dormers added to the top of the farmhouse, but principally the structure itself will be retained as it has been for almost 100 years, or at least over 100 years. Thank you. I believe that's it. I don't think there's a... So in terms of analysis, one of the things that we did look at is went through and ascertained the history. And so as it stated, the history of this one, it really came to the attention of the LACAC committee sometime in the 1980s, 1990s, and it appeared on the registry as a result of its significance to the local neighborhood. And as mentioned, the demolition notice was filed last month, and it really is only dealing with the non-historical aspect of the structure, which is the addition from 1985. The Heritage Act does allow notices to be given to municipalities, in this case council, 60 days in advance of applying for a demolition permit. And that gives council the opportunity to assess whether or not they would like to further designate a structure like this. Based on what's being proposed, staff did not feel that there was a need for any further study of the structure, and so we didn't suggest any further assessment being done. And in terms of the recommendation that staff's presenting to council, it's to decline the further designation of this structure on this property. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that great report. Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you, and through you to the presenter. Will the original designation, nothing changes? It's the original designation, 1920 is fine.
That's right. It's still on the list of properties, but it's not being asked to be further designated.
Good, thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Nishikawa.
With this property in particular, and I was sort of trying to pull it up. When we approve of something, like this and the building plans are included, or the design of the building, I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't something else we were approving that's within, like, so for instance, measurements to the water or like those kind of things. It's just come back in the past that we actually did do that, and I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't part of it.
Sure.
Through you, Mayor, to the councillor member. No, so there's no further request being made. It's simply asking for the demolition to be considered. And so there's no further planning approvals at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I'll read a resolution. I'll stab myself in the eye. Okay. Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Burry. Be it resolved that in response to the proposed partial demolition of the dwelling, bracket, i.e. the addition circa 1985, located at 1273 Moon River Road, bracket, roll numbers 7-8-005, council declines to issue a notice of intention to designate the property. Anybody have any questions on the resolution, comments? I'll call it. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Good job, Mr. Stone. In the club. I forgot to mention one other thing. There is correspondence. There's FYI only, no resolution. This is the Better Regional Governance Act. I think we actually did discuss this, didn't we? Was it maybe we weren't all around the table when we did. This was the correspondence from FLAC. Sorry, there was a motion from, there was a resolution from District Council that got rejected. I think we did talk about this after all. I didn't skip it. Okay. Someone suggested I had. Yeah, we did.
No.
Oh, that was this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, we want to talk about it again?
Where are you on your agenda?
10B.
Okay. We have not talked about that.
Okay.
Skipped it up.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, okay. You want to talk about it again? No? We all know the story. Thank you very much. Moving on. All right, bunch of bylaws. Here we go. First of all, bylaw 226 Lake Joseph Road. Who's on for that? Ms. Walker, welcome.
Thank you very much. And through you, as council may recall, consent application B/64/65/67/25 ML and zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 4025 were heard by planning committee at last month's committee meeting held on April 16th, 2026. Planning committee recommended that the applications be approved subject to the conditions of consent, a revision to the draft bylaw to restrict shoreline structures on the retained lot, and that third reading be withheld until such time as a revised zoning sketch is provided, which delineates the identified cold water stream as noted in the scope natural heritage evaluation prepared by the consultant dated December 2025, and that the feature be proposed to be rezoned to environmental protection EP1, inclusive of a buffer which development must be set back from. The revision to the bylaw has been implemented as shown on the attached bylaw in the agenda. Further, since planning committee, the applicant's agent has submitted a revised zoning and consent sketch to include the cold water stream. Staff therefore recommend that the minor amendment be passed today to allow staff to swap out the schedules. With this minor amendment, staff would also no longer recommend third reading be withheld and would recommend all three readings be given today. Staff have prepared a resolution today to implement this minor amendment. I have no other comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions? Well, I'll read a resolution. Moved by Councillor Zabit, seconded by Councillor Burry. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-051 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14 bracket 8298 Lake Joseph Road, Inc. Roll number 4-8-018 and 4-8-006 be read a first and second time. Any questions? Comments? All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Next up, moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Kent. Be it resolved that a minor amendment be approved to replace Schedules 2 and 4 to bylaw 2026-051 to reflect the delineation of the identified cold water stream and to rezone the feature and its recommended buffer to Environmental Protection 1. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Finally, on this file, moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor McIntyre. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-051 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14 bracket 8298 Lake Joseph Road, Inc. Roll number 4-8-018.
Councillor Edwards isn't here.
Thank you. So you look like him. All right. All right, I'm just going to read it again. Moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor McIntyre. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-051 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14 bracket 8298 Lake Joseph Road, Inc. Roll number 4-8-018 and 4-8-006 be read a third time and finally passed. Questions, comments? All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Okay, no presenter on this one. First and second reading on a file. Moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-052 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14 bracket Maury, roll number 8-8-011 be read a first and second time. Any questions or comments? Councillor Nishikawa.
Sorry. I had that was denied and I didn't hear that in your.
I'm sorry?
I have that we denied it at planning and I didn't hear that in what you had read.
Okay. Maury, M-O-R-E-Y. No?
Mackenzie Road.
I don't have an address.
If I might, I think the decision was to just pass first and second reading and hold third reading.
I read resolution.
Yeah. David's scrolling. I mean, the CAO pink is scrolling.
For the bounty.
Yep.
Sorry.
CAO. Oh, yeah.
I just pulled the resolution from Planning Committee. It looks like exemptions B, C, and D were recommended for approval, but withholding third reading. So first and second readings were to be given, and that exemption A and E were to be denied. So look to Director Huff to confirm, but it looks like it was recommended by Planning Committee to give 2 readings to this bylaw and withhold third.
Okay, now the question is, have I read it yet? I think I did. All right, assume everybody's heard it. Any questions or other questions or comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries. Thank you.
No presentation, no minor.
No presentation, no minor amendments. So here we go. Moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Mazan. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-053 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14 bracket Rockwood Properties Muskoka Ltd. Roll number 5-3-002-01 be read a first and second time. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Same file, moved by Councillor Zabit, seconded by Councillor Roberts. He's seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-053 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14 bracket Rockwood Properties Muskoka Ltd. Roll number 5-3-002-01 be read a third time and finally passed. Questions? All in favor? Thank you. It carries. Need to have a drink. It's Brian here. Okay. Next up, nothing presented. Moved by Councillor Bosenworth, seconded by Councillor McIntyre. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-044 being a bylaw to dedicate part 1 and 3 on plan 35R 28033 as a public highway and to transfer ownership to the township be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Next up, moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Burry. Be it resolved that the flooded original shore road allowance on Lake Muskoka lying in front of concession 7, part lot 22 bracket Watt, designated as part 3 on plan 35R-27079-2352297 Ontario Inc. Roll 9-4-040 be declared as surplus land, and that the clerk is hereby instructed to dispose of the said property pursuant to sections 8, 9, and 11 of the Municipal Act 2001, and that bylaw 2026-46 to stop up, close, and convey that portion of flooded original shore road allowance designated as part 3 on 35R-27079 be given 3 readings and finally passed. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Next one, moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-047 being a bylaw to appoint a property standards officer for the corporation of the Township of Muskoka Lakes be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Oh, sorry, was that a question? I think we've already voted, but I'll take the question.
Thank you. Through you. How many property standards officers do we have currently? Is my question.
I'm going to probably go to Director Huff.
So currently our chief building official and our building inspector. Oh my goodness. My chief bylaw enforcement officer, as well as our other bylaw enforcement officer, would be property standards.
Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you. Through you. Supplemental then, is this our first dedicated property standards officer? Is that what you're saying? Just for general interest. Thank you.
Dr. Huff.
No, I don't think this is the first dedicated officer per se.
You have a question? Follow up?
Thank you. Through you. Do we have another full-time property standards officer? And this is a second one, or is this our first full-time property standards officer? Thank you.
Dr. Huff.
Sorry, I should clarify that although in the bylaw officers are enforcement officers, they're also property standard officers. So they have dual roles. We don't have a dedicated role only to property standards.
Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you. Then through you, this is a bylaw officer / property standards officer, like all the other ones. I don't know. I'm not trying to be thick here, but there's a differentiation in the category.
Director Huff.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Through you.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I didn't know you had. Sorry, I didn't see. No. Yeah,
Sorry. Through you. Our bylaw enforcement officers wear many hats. So they also are property standards. They're also line fence, anything to do with the dogs and they just did some training on that. So they wear multiple hats. So when we have a bylaw officer come on, you see a lot of these bylaws come through because we have to designate them for all those specific roles by bylaw.
Okay. We'll vote once more. Anybody, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. Next step, moved by Councillor McIntyre, seconded by Councillor Zavitz. Be it resolved that the original shore road allowance on Lake Muskoka lying in front of concession 8, part lot 25 bracket Monk, designated as parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on plan 35R-28047-Dyer, roll number 9-9-022 be declared as surplus land, and that the clerk is hereby instructed to dispose of the said property pursuant to sections 8, 9, and 11 of the Municipal Act 2001, and that bylaw 2026-048 to stop up, close, and convey that portion of shore road allowance, original shore road allowance, designated as parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on 35R-28047, be given 3 readings and finally passed. Any questions? All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Sorry, I could pick them up myself. Okay, next one, moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Kent. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-049, being a bylaw to levy and collect taxes for municipal purposes for the year 2026 and to establish due dates for the payments and to charge interest and penalties for non-payment of the same, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Questions? All in favor? That carries. Thank you. All right, this one's moved by Councillor Burry, seconded by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved that the flooded original shore road allowance on Lake Rosso lying in front of concession 5, part lot 28 bracket Watt, designated as parts 1, 2, and 3 on plan 35R-27574-Monteith, roll 2-9-083 be declared as surplus land, and that the clerk is hereby instructed to dispose of the said property pursuant to sections 8, 9, and 11 of the Municipal Act 2001, and that bylaw 2026-050 to stop up, close, and convey that portion of flooded original shore road allowance designated as parts 1, 2, and 3 on 35R-27574 be given 3 readings and finally passed. Questions? All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Zavitz, seconded by Councillor Bosenworth. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-054, being a bylaw to adopt an updated community improvement plan, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. All in favor? It carries. Thank you. All right. Moved by Councillor McIntyre, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-055, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2021-146, being a bylaw to designate community improvement project areas respecting the redevelopment, revitalization, prosperity, and beautification of the designated areas to expand the boundaries, community improvement project area to the whole of the township, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. All in favor? Thank you. Getting there. Moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Kent. Be it resolved, the council in closed session convene at 3:15 p.m. For an exemption, litigation, or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals, section 239 sub 2 sub E of the Municipal Act 2001, other exemption advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, section 239 sub 2 sub F of the Municipal Act 2001, and that's all described in number 1, confidential report CCS-2026-17, and 2, confidential report CCS-2026-18. All in favor? Thank you very much. So we're going to cut off the